Good morning, students. I am Raman Gupta back here with a new video in which I'll teach you about ode, a famous literary term which is also in our syllabus. So let's start. First of all, we'll see the definition and then its features or characteristics. Okay. So, an ode from ancient Greek. This word is from ancient Greek. Students, this is a Greek script in which it is written. Okay, and in Roman, in the next place, it is written. It is a type of lyrical stanza. An ode is a type of lyrical stanza. A stanza which can be sung with in the form of a short song. It is an elaborately structured poem praising or glorifying an event or individual, describing nature intellectually as well as emotionally. A classic ode is structured in three major parts. What are the three major parts of the classical ode? The first is strophe or strophe. The second is the antistrophe or the antistrophe, and the epode. The third one is epode. Different forms such as the homostrophic ode and the irregular ode also enter. There are these type of odes which are called homostrophic or irregular. Greek odes were originally poetic pieces performed with musical accompaniment. As time passed on, they gradually became known as personal lyrical compositions, whether sung with or without musical instruments, or merely recited always with accompaniment. The primary instruments used were the aulos and the lyre. These instruments, musical instruments, were used to accompany with odes. The latter was the most revered instrument. The lyre was the most revered or most recognized instrument to the ancient Greeks. There are three typical forms of odes. The first is the Pindaric, the second is the Horatian, and the third is irregular. So there are three forms of odes: Pindaric, Horatian, and irregular. Students, this can be asked in objective type questions. What type of odes are there in English literature? So you can answer it in this way. Pindaric odes follow the form and style of Pindar. Pindar was a famous poet of ancient time. Horatian odes follow conventions of Horace. It is named after Horace. The odes of Horace deliberately imitated the Greek lyricists such as Alcaeus and Anacreon. Irregular odes use rhyme but not the three-part from the Pindaric ode, nor the 2 or 4 line stanza of the Horatian ode. The ode is a lyric poem. It conveys exalted and inspired emotions. It is a lyric in an elaborate form, expressed in a language that is imaginative, dignified, and sincere. So, the language of the ode is imaginative, dignified, and sincere. Like the lyric, an ode is of Greek origin. As lyric has its origin in Greek literature, the ode has the same thing. So, the next point is English ode. English ode, the lyrics can be on various themes. The earliest odes in the English language using the word in its strict form were the epithalamium and prothalamion of Edmund Spenser. Epithalamion and prothalamion, these were the famous odes of Edmund Spenser. In the 17th century, the most important original odes in English were by Abraham Cowley. Abraham Cowley is another famous poet of the period of the 17th century. These were iambic but had irregular line length patterns and rhyme schemes. The difference with Cowley's odes are iambic, they were iambic but had irregular line length patterns and rhyme schemes. Cowley based the principle of his Pindarics on an apparent misunderstanding of Pindar's metrical practice, but nonetheless others widely imitated his style with notable success by John Dryden, again a famous name. With Pindar's meter being better understood in the 18th century, the fashion for Pindaric odes faded through. There are notable actual Pindaric odes by Thomas Gray. The name of the ode is The Progress of Poesy and The Bard. These are the famous Pindaric odes of Gray. So the lines from these odes are: there was a time when meadow, grove and stream, the earth and every common sight to me did seem, apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. So stream, seem and dream, these things rhyme. It is not now as it had been of yore. Turn wheresoever I may, by night or day. The things which I have seen I know, can see no more. Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life a star, had elsewhere its setting, and comes from afar, not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God who is our home. So this was an excerpt from Wordsworth's Imitations of Immortality. Around 1800, William Wordsworth revived Cowley's Pindaric for one of his finest poems, The Imitations of Immortality Ode. Others also wrote odes. Samuel Taylor Coleridge. There were other poets who has also exercised this literary term, like S.T. Coleridge, John Keats. Ode to Autumn we have read. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, John Keats and Percy Bysshe Shelley, who wrote odes with regular stanza patterns. Shelley's Ode to the West Wind, very important, written in 14-line terza rima stanzas, is a major poem in the form. Perhaps the greatest odes of the 19th century, however, were Keats' 5 great odes of 1819, which included Ode to a Nightingale, Ode on Melancholy, Ode on a Grecian Urn, Ode to Psyche, and to Autumn. So these are the famous, well known odes of John Keats. After Keats, there have been comparatively few major odes in English. One major exception is the fourth verse of the poem, For the Fallen, by Lorraine Binyon, which is often known as the Ode to the Fallen or simply as the Ode. So, this question can be asked that which ode is known as the Ode only? The answer is the Ode to the Fallen, written by Lawrence Binyon. W. H. Auden also wrote Ode, one of the most popular poems from his earlier career when he lived in London, in opposition to people's ignorance over the reality of war. In an interview, Auden once stated that he had intended to title the poem My Silver Age in mockery of England's supposed imperial golden age. However, choose Ode as it seemed to provide a more sensitive exploration of warfare. Ode on a Grecian urn, while an ekphrasis, also functions as an ode to the artistic beauty. The narrator observes the English ode's most common rhyme scheme is A B A B C D E C D E. So the rhyme scheme is a bit different. You have to remember it. A B A B C D E C D E. And it is accompanied with musical instruments to sing songs. So the set to music, as with the ancient Greek odes, English odes of the 17th and 18th centuries were occasionally set to music. Composers such as Purcell, Handel, and Boyce all set English odes to music. So this was about ode, a literary term. So students, you can read and study it well. If you find any problem, you can ask me as usual. Thank you and have a nice day.